My name is Hanna Edghill, and I've been working for 3 years here in Malmö as a visual designer at Top. Shortly about us, we do digital products and experiences. And the most recent projects that I've been working on is the SL app in Stockholm, Stockholm's Linjetrafik, and also plenty of products for Samsung, among others. So when I heard the theme for this month's Creative Morning was compassion, I felt intrigued. It's kind of difficult to choose what to speak about in such a fluffy subject. But during the past year, I've actually got to experience two extremes on the compassion scale. So both the really good and also kind of the horrible. So I thought I'd make it simple for myself and just share some of my experience with you. But most of all my feelings, because compassion isn't really something that we take for granted when it comes to the work culture in our ambitious world today. But it's kind of a warm feeling we get in our chest when we experience it, but it's also kind of a knot in our belly when we don't. So my hope is that I will give you some tools to evaluate your own workplace, so you can go back to your colleagues and kind of have a few more shades in what is compassion. So I'm going to start by telling you a story that I encountered, or a situation I encountered not so long ago. So starting from the beginning, about a year ago, I decided, I've been at Top for 3 years, but I decided I wanted to do a short internship as a motion designer. So I wanted to learn how to animate, specifically 2D. This is not my best work, but so to do so, I would do a short but kind of intense internship instead of going back to study. So I asked Top, would it be possible to have a leave of absence? And they said yes, and I applied to one of my favorite motion studios. And I got it. So I was super pumped. I've been following them on Instagram for years. So I packed my bags and I flew down there. So the first day came, and I was standing outside of the big office building and the slightly nicer climate, warm and sunny than it is here. And they'd sent down the one other woman in the company. It was about 12 guys there, and 11 men and 1 woman. So they sent her down, and they said she would answer all of my questions. And from then on out, they kind of referred to us as the girls. So she came down and fetched me, and the days flew by, and the weeks even, and it was really, really fun, and I learned a lot. But the environment was kind of harsh, and the jokes specifically were kind of harsh, which leads me to my next. Yes, this is a dildo gif. So we're sitting in one room at a long, slim table. So everyone is facing each other with our screens in the center. And me and the other woman were sitting next to each other by the big table in the center. And around the room, they have shelves with kind of decorations on them, like a design studio has, posters and books and whatnot. There's also a dildo on one of the shelves as some sort of decoration. And one day, one of the dudes he was aiming to be a bit funny, I guess. So he takes it down, walks across the room, and starts waving it in the face of the other woman next to me. And this was supposed to be a funny, kind of innocent joke, but she wasn't really liking it. And she's very clear about this, because she raises her hands in kind of a defensive position, and she says, "Please stop," kind of repeatedly. But he didn't get the hint, kind of. So he carries on, and this specific dildo has a suction cup on the back of it, for some reason. So he leans over and sticks it onto her screen, so it points straight out at her. And by this point, she's not laughing, she's silent now. And I'm kind of looking around, the management is over there, all at one big table. Everyone else is over there, and they're all looking down into their screens, doing nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm the intern. Am I the one that's gonna break this situation up? Because she's silent now, but her hands are still up. But you can see that her jaw is clenched. And you know that feeling when you're so angry and so upset that if you're gonna speak, they're gonna hear that your voice is shivering. And that's kind of the worst thing when you're at a company, to kind of give that away to your attacker, or the person making the joke. So, the worst thing about this situation, except for him being a bit daft and not so sensitive, to me it's kind of a breaking of the biggest trust in a workplace, because everyone in the room saw that she didn't appreciate this joke, but no one did anything. No one stood up for her, even though they all felt her kind of stress level building up. And I believe this is kind of, the boys in this office, they kind of refer to themselves as the boys club. They call themselves that. And I think the reason for none of them to stand up and do anything was because they were afraid of being left out of this boys club. And I'll get back to why I think this situation played out. So, to take a step back, compassion, in short, is this. It's to notice the feeling of others, to kind of see them. It's to feel with them, and then to want to do something about it. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. So for me it's pretty simple. You should see the people around you and kind of treat them as humans. It's very basic. So, forgot to use my notes. So I started working at Top about 3 years ago, and this is the more positive side of the compassion scale. And so far I kind of believe and gotten to know Top, and I believe that we do quite a lot of active things to raise compassion in the office. And yeah, I thought I'd share some of those things with you, because it's hard. Compassion is very fluffy to describe what creates the kind of mood it does in the office. But I've tried to collect some tangible things that we do to kind of build it up. So, first one being personal goals to support that as a company. So that is about getting your colleagues to reflect and your employees to reflect, and that will build emotional intelligence within them. So during my first year at Top, we would have monthly meetings, me and a senior in the office, one of the founders, and we would meet once a month, and she would ask me about my goals, and we would set up goals for the coming month, but also the coming 6 months. And we would also talk about my fears, being new to the industry. I could ask her all the silly, obvious questions that you have in the tech industry in the beginning that seems obvious to everyone else. And this kind of created a safe space where I could share all of these things with one single person. And after these meetings, they got me super motivated, because if Top were willing to kind of sacrifice 1 man-woman hour per month just to make me the best I could be, then obviously I would return the favor. If they invested so much in me, then I felt, that I should do the same. And it was also kind of building a trust between me, and even though it was just one person, she kind of represented Top in my eyes. It became clear to me that if I were to struggle in the future, maybe fail or, struggle, they wouldn't fire me or set me aside, but they would rather kind of try to help me to overcome that obstacle. And that is it's a safe feeling to feel when you're in a company, that they're on your side, we're on the same side in this. Let's talk about the fear. I've been at Top for quite a while, but I still feel the fear of failing. And in the beginning it was quite intense. Being new to something, you're always afraid that you're gonna screw up pretty badly. So after a few months, I was assigned one of our biggest clients, Samsung. And I was the solo visual designer on the project. And it felt like a huge responsibility. So I told Marcus, one of the founders and a colleague of mine, Marcus, what happens if I fail really, really, really badly? And he said, quite unexpectedly, Hanna, okay, say you fuck up so bad that we lose Samsung as a client, really, really badly, then it wouldn't be your fault, it would be the management. And I said, what? How is that? If I make a mistake, of course it's my fault alone. And he had a bit of an extreme explanation to this. So he said, imagine that all the project managers and like bosses or whatever, that they're chess players, and that all the designers and the developers, they're chess pieces. So just like a project manager or a salesperson, they plan a project like a chess player plays the game. And also the project manager, they know the limitations of each of the workers because they hire them. They looked at their portfolio. They know exactly their skill set. Just like a chess player knows the limitations of queen, kings, and farmers or whatnot. And if you play them too boldly and loses, it's kind of not really the piece's fault. Just like if a project manager make a project too short, so you don't have enough time to work, or if you leave too much risk balancing on one single delivery. So this statement, after hearing this, my fear faded quite a lot, because it's kind of a very strong and protective feeling in this statement. Because what it's really saying is, like, the management, they're not supposed to only protect the client's interest, they're also supposed to protect their workers from failing. And an individual does not fail, the whole team fails together. And this lifted quite a lot of pressure off me. So next one, power to the team. So in a team we have quite different needs, of course. So me, myself, I'm a visual designer. I like sitting by my computer and looking into it for a long time. And I need more than 3 hours in a stretch to be able to kind of get into that creative zone, preferably not disturbed, not even a tap on the shoulder. Whereas my colleague Emil, that sits next to me, he enjoys speaking to people, preferably like every 15 minutes, and have long discussions about what's the actual need of the end user and stuff like that. So obviously me and Emil have different needs as well. And that's fine. So in the beginning of each project, what we do is we have an intro where we gather the team, say we're 5 people, we gather them up in a small room, usually quite sweaty, and then we have this intro where there's a lot of small exercises, but the most important one being that we take some time and we write down what do I bring to the team, your strengths, and also what am I working on. And it could be not necessarily a weakness, but just something you want to focus on to get better at during that project. It could be anything. And by doing this, it's so much easier to then create a structure that fits everyone. And as you remember, the first part of compassion, if you remember, notice other people and to see other people. So by having these kind of introductions where you're kind of forced to share, it kind of also forces the other people in the team to see you and to notice you. And so this is kind of the first step to becoming a compassionate team, because it's a lot easier to understand your colleagues if you already know, oh, this is something they're working on. Maybe it's okay that they're late, but they want me to remind them because they told me that that's something they're working on. So you have, these are a few examples. So now I've gotten you the horrible story where there's no compassion amongst the employees, and the positive where there's quite a lot, or it's building to be quite a lot of compassion. And it's always easy to compare two extremes, but I've been trying to figure, after the internship especially, I've been trying to figure out how do I compare like the small stuff, like standing next to the coffee machine and talking, because it's something in the air, like a mood, that it's hard to put a finger on it, but you feel it in your belly or in your chest. But I think I've come up with a solution to how to compare it. So I present to you my very own power relationship analysis. So this is my internship. I'm gonna be pedagogisk. This is the boss up here. This is the boys club here in the middle. This is me, this is the other woman, and this is the vegetarian dude. It was a very meat-eating country, so he was placed down here with us as well. So this kind of, how to explain this. So the way the boss behaves in the top, that kind of becomes the shape or the norm for how people should behave in this group, or to become higher up. So if he likes to joke about women and vegetarians, let's say, then it's okay for everyone else to do so as well, because they look to him for the way to behave. And it's even recommended to do so if you don't want to fall down into the women and vegetarian group down here. And you can notice, because everyone in the office, they acted in a certain scared way. It wasn't like they were screaming, but they were constantly stiff and kind of looking over towards the boss to see what was his reaction to everything, and then he would react the same way. And this, it must have taken so much energy out of these people. I was there for 3 months, but you know. And then this is top, and I didn't come up with this. This was drawn to me in the first few weeks when I came to top, and they call it the amoeba. And so every new person that comes into the company changes the outer shape of what is top. So say now that I wanted to learn animation, that's not really something top offers to client, or it's not a core part of top. But now that I know a lot of animation, they can offer it to clients. So that has become part of their skill palette that they now can offer. So the outer shape of top is flexible, and it's shaped by every individual that's inside of top. So this theory would kind of explain why no one stood up for the woman that got a dildo waved in her face. And it would also explain why everyone laughed at the vegetarian dude, the boss being the first one to laugh, of course. And it would also explain how I instantly felt a part of the team at top, and welcome, and also an important team member. So, back to this relationship. So if you set up the right environment for your company, your employees will kind of follow your example. And by being compassionate and showing that you care towards your employees, they will kind of follow your example and also become compassionate towards their coworkers. So when I left my internship, I hugged the other woman goodbye, and she told me, it's kind of sad, but she told me I was happy to have a human with me here for a while. That's a bit heartbreaking, but really all people want is to be treated as humans, and with respect and compassion. Thank you.